Welcome to Rose Red Homestead. I have right here in these two buckets 100 bare root strawberries that we are going to plant today. But there's going to be something very special about these strawberries. They are going to help us grow soil. So I'll explain more about that when we come back in just a moment. I've been out planting all morning, and so my voice is a little bit husky. I think maybe I have picked up an allergy to some of the pollen that is out there. But nevertheless, I'm excited to plant these strawberries. Now, before we go out and actually do the strawberry planting, because this is a special and unique experience for us. In fact, it is going to be quite a major experiment, and we're going to bring you, our viewers, right along with us as we experiment. So the first thing I want to do is talk just a little bit about soil. I have had misconceptions about soil for almost all of my life. Now, I have known about a lot of these things, but I just have not understood it in terms of how to implement it in our own garden. About 3 months ago, I found a YouTube channel from a gentleman in New Jersey whose first name is Mark. I don't know what his last name is, but I have watched many of his videos. He does more of the heavy scientific reasons behind what I'm going to explain, and I'm going to give you that reference. I just have learned so much from his videos, and his channel is called I Am Organic Gardening, and he talks so much about the no-till method. Now, that no-till method, and you've probably heard of it, I've heard of it for years. In fact, we've even tried it, and I really couldn't get it to work, and it's because I did not truly understand the concept at the level that I now do, because I have paid attention to what, and I call him Jersey guy because he is Mark from New Jersey. I now understand that what I knew in my head, I really did not understand in terms of how to implement and make it work in my own garden. So I want to introduce you to the concept that I'm sure you've already heard about, and that is the soil food web. And I'm going to get this really, really close. This is the soil food web. And I know that it's going to be difficult for you to read this from just on the screen. So I am going to put a link to it at the bottom of the video. Now, this is from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and it explains what needs to be occurring in the soil for us to have a good, healthy, productive soil. And that's what New Jersey guy does. He is an organic grower, and I have sort of, not poo-pooed organic gardening, but I have just thought that, oh yeah, okay, so what? But after listening to him, it's not that I'm going to become this intense organic gardener, but we are going to practice some of the things that he has taught me through his videos in terms of having a good, healthy food soil. Now, I'm not going to get into the heavy science the way he does. That's why I gave you the reference to him. One of the things that he does on his videos is that he references other scientists and other people who know an awful lot about soil science. And I, with my own scientific background, really appreciate knowing and understanding the science behind things. So I'm just going to simplify it, and then if you want the deep version, you can go to his videos and listen to him. But basically what happens in our soil is, if we just look at native soil that we start to use in our garden, like when we came here, a lot of this property had not been gardened before, so it was native soil. And we had a pretty good year the first year. But then after that, it wasn't so good. And so, of course, we did what we've always been taught, which is add organic material, buy soil amendments and put them in the soil, bone meal, blood meal, peat moss, and then, of course, I switched over to coconut coir because it is renewable. but we were just trying to beef up our soil all the time. But what had happened, as near as I can now tell with my new understanding of things, is that we had a very healthy crop of bacteria in our soil. And anytime we were putting fertilizer down or anything like that, any organic material, the bacteria would attack it, which was good, and it would produce a little bit of an effect. Compost and organic material, cow manure, all of those things, it would produce a little bit of an effect for a while. And then those effects would go away and we would have to reapply everything every single year. So after diagnosing what our own problem was, I realized that we just had pretty much only the bacteria. Because what happens when soil bacteria are pretty much alone in the soil, it does not produce this beautiful food web. It's only pretty much just those bacteria. And bacteria digestion is very different than fungi or fungus, however you want to say it. When fungi digest things, the outcome is very different than when bacteria digest things. So when the bacteria were digesting all of these things, they would do it very quickly. And what happened was the carbon dioxide that was produced as a byproduct of their digestion would escape out of the soil and go right back into the atmosphere. And that's exactly what we don't want. We do not want carbon dioxide to go back into the atmosphere. We want the carbon in carbon dioxide to stick in the soil, because that is what is going to help us begin to promote this healthy soil food web. Now, fungi are very different in their digestion. The end product of their digestion is organic. It's humus, organic. And they will digest and then redigest and then redigest, and the carbon stays in the soil. So what plants do is plants take carbon dioxide out of the air, put that carbon dioxide through their metabolism process, and then they exude, meaning giving off through their roots, certain compounds. And one of those elements that goes into the soil is carbon. And so we want that carbon to stay in the soil. So when the bacteria get at it, the carbon goes away. When others get at it, the carbon stays and organic material is produced. So what we want in the soil is about a 1-to-1 balance between bacteria and fungi. And I'm sure that most of you have heard of the mycorrhizal fungi that is so incredible in how it helps plants survive. It sends out its little hyphae, the little strings, and they attach. They either stay on the outside of the roots or they actually penetrate the root cells, and they transport a lot of the things from the soil right into the roots. Lots of scientific experimentation has been done to show that this is indeed the case. And this has only been known for about 30 years, so in the terms of scientific knowledge, it really is quite new. But what has not happened is all of this scientific research has had a hard time trickling down. A lot of farmers are now learning more about this, particularly organic farmers like New Jersey Guy, but small-time homesteaders like us, we're still steeped in the traditions in which we grew up, which was, gosh, we've got to get in there and really manipulate that soil. But what happens when you till or when you disturb the soil in any way, the tines of our tillers go down into the soil and stir that all up and completely destroy this soil food web. And so that's why no-till, or really no disturbance of soil, is better, because if you grow good healthy soil, then that good healthy soil will grow your plants. One thing about soil that was very interesting for me to learn was, I always thought, we're right here on the Colorado Plateau. We have sandstone mountains right behind us, the beautiful Canaan Mountains. And I thought that pretty much because our property is the red dirt that comes from the sandstone, I thought we were pretty much sand. One of the things that I learned from Jersey Guy was to just do this little simple soil test that I've taught in elementary school, and I have taught in my university classes to future teachers how to do this. And it's really a very simple thing. You just go out to your yard and you collect some native soil. Go to a place that you have not amended the soil at all, if you can find a spot like that. And we have plenty of spots here, so I just went out to a place that we have not bothered at all and put about this much soil, and then I filled it up to about here with water, and then I shook it up really heavily, and then I let it settle out. Now there are 3 elements to soil. There's sand, silt, and clay. And if you have all 3 elements in your soil, regardless of the percentages, then you can work with plants to turn your soil into good, healthy soil, and you can grow more. New Jersey Guy's soil was way heavy in clay. Ours, as it settled out, you can see, and actually I don't know if you can see, but you can, I hope you can trust me, I'll turn it around here. So the sand comes out to about right here. Then there is a little band of silt, and there is a tiny, tiny layer of clay. And so if I were to actually project what the percentages are, I would say we're probably about 60 to 70% sand. We're about 28% silt and maybe 2% clay. And now, and then the rest of the stuff that's kind of hanging around here is organic material. So sand, silt, and clay is what we want to work with when we are working with our soil. And it is amazing what New Jersey Guy has accomplished on his farm. He has 22 acres, and he supports himself completely on the vegetables that he grows on that 22 acres. So we are going to use these beautiful strawberries. Now, when they arrived, they certainly didn't look all green like this. They were shriveled, they were dried up. Many of the bottom leaves had already died. The tops were very yellowish, so I've kept them in these buckets of water for about 5 or 6 days, and look, they've greened up, the leaves are coming. So we'll move out to Strawberry Hill, where we are then going to learn a little bit more about how these strawberries are going to help us grow soil. So we'll see you out there. So we're right out here, and I'm standing right beside Strawberry Hill. This is what we call Strawberry Hill. It's about 36 feet long, it's about 9 feet wide. I'm not going to plant the entire width, I'm going to plant more on the top of this mound. Now when we moved onto this property, it looked like that right over there. We have left that completely natural. And what Jim did with his tractor is that he pushed, when he cleared this area, he pushed all of those woody shrubs up into a long line right here. And then we covered it with our native soil, which as you can see is the red sandstone sandy soil. And it's been like that for about 7 years. Now, we thought for sure that in doing so, and I had read about it, that the woody plants and everything would decompose under the soil. And in light of that, right away after we mounded this up, we planted strawberries out here. Well, the strawberries did not do well. It was too hot in the summertime. They dried up. They obviously were not getting any nutrition from the decaying plant material, and so we pretty much abandoned it after about 3 years of trying. So we came back to it this year, and it was pretty much covered with weeds. We knocked it down just a little bit. It was probably up to about this high. So we mounded it off so it's a more gentle curve, and dug a little bit deep, and there is no sign of any of that shrub and brush anymore. So it is all decomposed. I'm not sure where the nutrients went. If it was all bacterial, they probably have gone all back up into the air and have done nothing for us. So here is what we are going to do. The mantra of building good soil is roots in the ground. And I don't mean roots here and then roots over there and roots here. What we mean is solid roots in the ground. That is going to attract the right organisms to come to this place onto Strawberry Hill and build really good soil for us, to grow good soil for us. So 2 days ago, I came out here and I have planted entire Strawberry Hill with 3 types of seeds. I have used New Zealand clover, which is a nitrogen fixer. I have used summer alfalfa, which is also a nitrogen fixer, and I have used rye grass. All of those are perennials. They will keep coming back year after year. Now you may be surprised when we come back in a couple of months to see that this is going to be, if our experiment works, will be solid plants, solid cover crops, top to bottom, all around. And then nestled among those plants are going to be our strawberry plants. Now, we're not a bit concerned about competition. A year ago, I would have been very concerned, but I have learned a lot about how to build good soil, and that by keeping a cover crop on, these plants will help each other grow and thrive. So hopefully that's what we are going to see. Now, in addition to planting the strawberries in a hill that is going to be sprouting all kinds of cover crops, I'm going to plant a mustache along this edge of winter rye, and over there on the other side a big strip of winter rye right between the hill and where the asparagus are going to seed over there. That winter rye is different from the grass rye that I'm planting here. It's going to grow about this tall, and it will be about this wide, and there will be one on either side. And then on this side of this little strip, I'm going to plant a row of 5-foot sunflowers. The winter rye and the sunflowers are excellent for growing soil, and we will ultimately knock them down. It'll produce straw and organic material for us. We're going to leave them in place and then just let the soil web, food web, take care of that. But all during the summer, this 5 foot of ryegrass on this side and 5 feet on the other side, this is north to south. And so as the sun goes up and over this way, it is going to offer cooling and shade during the hottest part of the day for these strawberry plants. So it's going to act as a wind barrier. Also, it will be provide some cooling shade. So I'm going to get busy. My flag marks halfway, and so I have 4 bunches of 25 each. So I'm just going to get in this bucket, and I plant strawberries with my bare hands. I cannot do it with gloves. So these are all wet, which is really good, and I'm going to plant from the center line this way down here 25 plants. So I'm just going to kind of toss them, separate the roots, and toss them in place. And we're not going to film this whole thing. You would get bored. But I would like for you to see me plant a couple of them, because I learned from Jersey Guy a better way how to do it so that I'm not disturbing the soil. So I'm going to stop with this right now and show you a couple of examples of how to plant these. Now these are bare root. Okay, so I have a little putty trowel instead of any kind of a shovel. It's going to cut right in. Now remember, this hill is all planted. Now here's a little weed. I'm just going to slice it off. I'm going to leave roots in the ground. That's my new mantra, roots in the ground. So I'm just going to very carefully, with this trowel, make a little slit, ease those roots in very carefully, and then I'm going to plant up to the crown and then push it back together. That is the least amount of bothering of the soil that needs to be done with these. So I'll do another one right here so that Jim can get a close-up of this. And again, oh my gosh, we've got some sprouting. How exciting is that? And I don't want to disturb those either. That's probably the New Zealand clover. So I'm just going to get in a little bit and get the roots down in there. Push it back together again at the crown, and we're good to go. So I'm going to plant the rest of these, and we'll come back after we're done. Well, I'm halfway finished. This whole half of Strawberry Hill is planted. We took a little break and went in for lunch, and while I was relaxing for a little bit, Jim came and got me and said we had a visitor out in the backyard. And so I took a little video of our visitor. Hello. You gonna come out and say hello?
I can move up the flap if you want.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Let me get a little video. There we go. There's a great picture. Beautiful gopher snake. This is probably, we name our gopher snakes Henry. So this is probably about Henry V. We always welcome gopher snakes on our property, and we're not a bit frightened by them at all. In fact, Jim and I raised snakes for a decade. We sold that business about 4 years ago. So we were thrilled to have Henry back on our property again. We're not sure if Henry is the same Henry every year, but we would like to think so. So I'm going to get busy and plant the last half, and then we'll bring you back. So this is the last one. Yay! Took a little over an hour to do all of this. So glad to have all this done. So Jim is going to water this in, and then I will come back probably tomorrow in the morning and check every single one to be sure that they are buried right to the crown. That is really important. Now I have planted them quite far apart because I have the space out here, but they should grow and pretty much fill in. And if we have done our work right, which if our experiment is a success, and keep your fingers crossed that it's a success, when we come back in a couple of months, midsummer, this whole hill should be covered with not just ground cover, but with strawberry plants that are absolutely flourishing. So that's what our hope is. So this is all we're going to do today. When we come back midsummer, this row of rye, winter rye on this side and the other side should be about this high, and it will be offering the hill some shade and also some protection from the wind. So we will come back with part 2 to give you an update in just a few weeks. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you then.